we talk cryptocurrency, when we talk blockchain, a lot of people think about digital gold. But in order to get gold, we need miners. And in order to get miners, we need something that is structuring all of this. And that is what we are going to talk about now. It's mining. So please let me introduce Ibrahim Alkurd, who will be the next speaker on this stage. Please give him a hand. He's coming there. It's here.
Thank you. Is the mic on? Yes, it is. Cool. So before I start the talk, I always like to ask a few questions before I start. So can you put your hand up if you own cryptocurrency personally? If you've got crypto, cool. And put your hand up if you mine cryptocurrency. Cool. All right, so very few of you, but this is what we're going to go over. So as my colleague said, cryptocurrency mining is super important because it basically, without it, the network cannot run. So these are the miners in the background that basically run the show. So a bit about me. I'm the CEO of NewMine, which is a cryptocurrency mining company. We operate predominantly in North America, anywhere with cheap hydropower. We only use renewable energy sources when we're mining. And I also own a hedge fund, which is in the States. It's headquartered in Florida. We are a cryptocurrency and blockchain-focused hedge fund. And we, as I said, are in Florida, but we've got team members all over the world. So what is mining? So I don't know, everyone's knowledge base here. So I want to do basic and build it up. So Bitcoin and Ethereum, they use a proof of work system, which means that this is the process whereby very powerful computers solve algorithms, right? So they validate transactions. And upon validating these transactions, these machines that do it are rewarded in cryptocurrency. So currently the blockchain reward for Bitcoin is 12.5. It used to be 25, and it drops every 4 years. But different coins have a different block reward. And the mining is important because it helps bring in a healthy stream of coins into the market. And as I said, that's 12.5 coins every 10 minutes for Bitcoin. And some coins, such as XRP, which is not really decentralized whatsoever, and I don't want to go into it too much, but those coins are pre-mined. So the Ripple Foundation owns the majority of the XRP coins, and they can distribute them as they wish. So that's the very basics of it. So there's types of mining hardware. So there are two main types of miners. There's the ASICs and there's the GPU rigs. So the main supplier of ASICs is Bitmain. So Bitmain builds the S9s, they build the A3s, they build the Litecoin mining machines. And actually, Bitmain is changing. So before, Bitmain is producing the vast majority of ASIC miners, but there are new companies emerging that are going to mean that they're producing ASICs. So it's going to be more diversified, the companies that produce the miners. So ASIC stands for Application-Specific Integrated Circuit, and an ASIC is very good at mining it's very good at doing one thing. So an S9 is very good at mining Bitcoin, right? An L3 is very good at mining Litecoin, but you cannot use an S9 to mine any other coin. So that's the advantage of ASICs is very good at one thing. The disadvantages of it is that you can't use an S9 to mine anything but Bitcoin because that's the only thing it's good at, right? So the advantage of a GPU rig, it's more diversified. You can use the same rig to mine Ethereum. You can use the same rig to mine any of the other altcoins. And also the other advantage of having a GPU rig is that the graphics cards that we put into these rigs, you can sell to gamers. So there's more of a market for them than ASICs. If Bitcoin goes to 0, your S9 is worth nothing. If Ethereum goes to $0, those cards can be sold to the gaming community. So as a company, we recommend diversification across a range of ASICs and GPU rigs for all our customers in order to mitigate risk. So if Ethereum goes to 0, then you've got the S9s, the ASICs, so your risk is lower. So this is an S9, which I've talked about a fair bit. That mines Bitcoin. What you can see on the right, that's a GPU rig. That's being manufactured at a facility in Washington. You can see the graphics cards at the front. So that particular rig has 7 or 8 graphics cards, and it's got all the components. The rig is case enclosed. The reason we case enclose it is because it helps with air circulation. So two of the biggest problems with mining is heat and it is dust. So we've had clients, we've had really senior people in Saudi, like people from We don't want to go into it in too much detail, but they've wanted to set up mining operations in Saudi Arabia. But the problem with that, Saudi Arabia is too hot, so the cooling costs would be ridiculous. And also there's a lot of sand. And that sand, if it gets into the data center, it gets on the machines, it makes the machines hot, and it damages them. So whenever we build mining farms, we look for two things. We look for someone that's very cold, which means that we pay less in cooling costs, because that's a massive expense for us as a mining company. And we also look for somewhere that is not dusty, so clean environments. You know, places like Iceland, places like Norway, those are good environments. In North America, you've got places like North Carolina, places like Washington, and lots of Canada is really good for mining. So these are the factors to consider when you guys want to get into mining. So it's the purchase price of the machines. So that varies massively depending on the market. S9s are being sold for thousands and thousands of dollars earlier this year. Now an S9 is sold for $300. It's sold for dirt cheap. The resale value of the machines, so it's difficult to tell the resale value of the machines. It depends on the market. I remember in 2016, I was using graphics cards, GPUs, to mine to mine the altcoins. And after 12 months of using the card, I was selling the card for more money than I'd bought it for because there was so much demand. At one point, there was such a shortage of graphics cards in the market because AMD and Nvidia couldn't keep up with the supply that people were paying 3-4 times the retail price of the cards. So it's a crazy environment. Obviously, a big factor is the electricity costs, so that's why people build these data centers in places where there's cheap hydropower. The majority of mining facilities, they run on hydropower or geothermal, stuff that's renewable. So some people say that mining is really bad for the environment. Well, it's not, because we're using renewable energy sources. We're creating jobs and using energy that wouldn't have been used anyway. And the other thing is the increase in mining difficulty. Now, we can't predict this, and the higher the mining difficulty, the lower your reward's going to be. And the mining difficulty is determined by the cumulative amount of miners that are in the network. So this is the Ethereum difficulty chart and graph. So this was October 28 to January 28. So this was a while ago, right? But you can see massive increase in the Ethereum mining difficulty. But if we look at this graph, and we look later in the year, July 23rd to October the 23rd, we can see a drop in the mining difficulty. So the reason this happened is because the small-scale miners, so the guys that basically weren't us, that weren't running tons of machines, that didn't have very cheap electricity power, they had to start unplugging their machines because they couldn't have been running it at a profit. So that's why we can see a direct correlation. As the price of Ethereum dropped, where it was no longer profitable to mine, the smaller miners started selling their machines. And we managed to carry on mining because we have the cheap electricity rates and we have massive scale, which makes it cheaper for us. But the strange thing is that despite the massive drop in the Bitcoin price that we've seen, Bitcoin price at its peak was $20,000, now it's $6,000. The mining difficulty of Bitcoin kept increasing and increasing. So despite the drop in price, people are still able to mine Bitcoin profitably. So as I said, the more miners in the network, the higher the difficulty. And this is what the graph looks like. So that's the reason for this is because you get large institutions dominating the mining sphere. They build massive facilities, like 20 megawatt facilities, 50, 100 megawatt facilities that have tens of thousands of miners. And it means the small guys can't compete, but the rich guys can. It's just like a lot of markets. The people with less money are wiped out whilst the bigger firms can carry on mining. And this is a big sticking point in the crypto community, that the mining infrastructure is being dominated by a small handful of wealthy people. And unfortunately, that is the case. And there's very little that we can do at the moment to change that with regards to Bitcoin. So if you go on our website, the URL is at the top left. You can see photos of our GPU rigs. You can see videos of the machines being built. So I just pulled a quick video. Hopefully it loads. Perfect. So we don't need the music. So the music came, brilliant. So this is us building a GPU rig. So what you can see there is you can see the PSU at the top left-hand side. All the graphics cards are at the front. I think these are AMD 570 cards when we built this. And everything is case enclosed. So you've got the motherboard at the bottom left-hand side. You've got the CPU about to be put in. So when we build these machines, we try to make it as tidy as possible, because when stuff goes wrong, and trust me, these machines go down a lot, right? So you need to pull these away, and the more organized they are, the less hassle we have when we're repairing them. So that's another factor to consider. If you want to get into mining, you need to understand that these machines, stuff will go wrong. Some machines won't even start. Some machines are going to break down later, so that's another expense that you have to factor into your calculations. And again, the bigger the scale that we do the operation, the cheaper it is. So what we're doing here is we're modifying the BIOS on the cards. So the cards, they come with factory settings, and what we do is we mod the BIOS in order to increase the mining hash rate of the cards. So, it depends. So the issue with modifying the BIOS is that you can damage the cards if you increase them too much. So what we're doing here is we're producing a balance between modifying how quickly the cards run and making sure we don't damage them. So that's the completed rig. We then cover it over the top, we stick it to mine, and it's done. So this is the other design. So I just showed you guys a GPU rig that's casing closed. These are GPU rigs that are stacked. So you've got the mining cards on one level. Beneath that, you've got everything else. Again, you've got the mining cards, and you've got everything else. So the advantage of this is that it is cheaper to build, but the disadvantage of it is that it's less reliable. It's got a higher rate of failure. So that's one of the other things. So some of our clients, they say, look, I want you to build a mining farm as cheaply as possible. We say, this is an option for you, but you've got to remember that you're going to have more failure rates. So over time, although you might be building something that is cheaper, naturally you're going to have more problems, and you're going to have a loss of mining revenue. So these are casing closed rigs. So this is in a facility in North Carolina. And these are casing closed, so they've got better air circulation, and they're much more reliable. These are S9s, the ant miners. This is in Washington, I believe. Yeah, this is in Washington. So when I asked, how many of you own cryptocurrency, a lot of you put your hands up. When I said how many of you mine, it was only a handful of people. So one of the things you can do is have one or two machines at home for fun. Right now, mining isn't very profitable if you do it at such a small scale. But the advantage of that is you learn how the network works. Often I ask people what is blockchain, and they have no clue. And having your own machine is a good way of understanding that. The other option is cloud mining. Now, I've put that up just for the case of education, right? But I wouldn't touch it. Cloud mining is ridiculous. The companies that are selling cloud mining contracts, if it was more profitable to them, for them to mine, they'd do it, right? Do not buy into it. People have pumped millions into mining operations and never seen a profit. They're absolutely ridiculous, right? So instead of putting your money into cloud mining, just buy your own coins, okay? If you want to learn about mining, buy one machine and put it in your garage to run. The third option is to buy your own hardware and get it hosted professionally. So that's what we do as a company. Now, you've got to remember that we tailor more for high net worth investors, institutions. So we often have minimum buy orders. Our minimum buy order has been 100,000 of our machines. It's been $250,000. It's been $500,000. It's been $1 million at one point. So the reason we do that is because on scale, everything is so much cheaper. So, I'm more than happy to sometimes take on smaller clients, but majority of our clients are larger clients. So that's the real money is getting it hosted professionally at scale. As I said, the bigger you go, the cheaper it gets. So as a company, we primarily focus on manufacturing of GPU rigs. That was the video I showed you guys prior. We also supply ASICs in bulk because we've got good contacts at Bitmain. And we also obviously have the hosting. So the hosting that we've provided in the past has been anywhere from Washington State, which is West Coast, to North Carolina, East Coast. It's been in Labrador City in Canada. We've got connections in Europe. So it's all over the world. And there's definitely a lot of options for our clients. In the storage section, you can see what we currently have. So the mining market is very seasonal, which means that sometimes there's no cards on the market. So the machines that we provide to our clients vary massively between one month and the other. But you can see everything on our website. One of the major benefits of GPU rigs is that you can sell the cards later. There's more of a market for them. ASICs, there isn't that market. So I've said that point already, but I'm repeating it because it's one of the key points. So if you guys want to invest into mining, you've got to think, do I want ASICs or I want GPU rigs? The chances is the best thing to do is diversify and have some ASICs and some GPU rigs. But we generally prefer GPU rigs for our clients. This is the monitoring software. So we try to, we automate everything. So with this monitoring software, you can see as a client, they can have 16 machines online. That's the overall hash rate for a particular client. The average temperature of the machines, the cooler is, the better. If the machines get too hot, we have automated software that can switch the machines off. and then you've got the total GPUs live. So that can tell us right now there's 2 GPUs that are dead. So we can pull the GPUs, we can look at the problem. If we can fix it in-house, brilliant. If we can't, we send it off to the manufacturer and claim on the warranty, or the manufacturer can repair it for us. So that's one of the key things that distinguishes us from the competition. It's the automation of everything. You can see everything from one dashboard. And then you can also see your machines poolside. So one of the questions we get from clients is, how do I know you are not taking the machines and mining to a different address? Well, you can see it poolside. So this is on ethermine.org. You can see all your machines that are online. You can see how much coins have been mined, how many active workers there are. So that's one of the key things. And I think that's it. So thank you for listening, and I welcome any questions if you have any. Thanks, guys.
Hi, thanks for that. A question, when Bitcoin is mined and there's no more Bitcoin to issue, what happens?
So the question is when it runs out. So the block reward, as I said, it halves every 4 years. So we're actually really far away from running out of Bitcoin being mined. But what's going to happen, we hope that so every time you send a transaction in the Bitcoin chain, you have to put a fee, right? And that fee is paid out to the miners that solve the mathematical problem and add it to the blockchain. So we're hoping that when there's no block reward left, the incentive that is the fee that's added to the chain is enough for the miners to still run profitably and keep the network going. Does that answer your question? Okay. Problem? Questions?
Hey, how early did you start mining? And what do you think about the coins that want to switch to proof of stake?
Okay, so I personally started mining about 4 years ago. New Mine's been around since 2016. This is another sticking point, the proof of work and the proof of stake coins. So, proof of stake coins are not really blockchain coins. You can, reprogram the code. So the true blockchain are the Bitcoins. It's the proof of work coins. But that doesn't mean that proof of stake doesn't provide good innovation. So we all know Ethereum has been wanting to move to a proof of stake for a very long time, and they haven't been able to do that. But I think if the Ethereum team execute that properly, then we might see more proof of stake coming along. Yep.
What do you think of WinMiner, where you can rent out your spare CPU capacity on a normal laptop?
Okay, so there's actually been a lot of people downloading stuff that's dodgy and not realizing that it's mining in the background of their computers. But the thing is, it's very difficult for a CPU to compete with GPUs and to compete with ASICs in the majority of coins. So with CPUs, using your CPU, it's probably not worth it because you might end up damaging it, causing harm to your computer. And if there might be some very small coins that it's worth doing it on, but the bigger cap coins stick to GPUs and stick to ASICs. Is that all the questions? I think that's all of them. One more question, I think.
Hi, Ibrahim. I'm
Hi.
Jochen.
Hi.
You said your computers are competing with other companies, other miners. That means that what kind of transactions are you solving? And is mining a business that is getting more and more difficult the more computers are in the system and running?
So it is getting far more difficult, and the reason it's less profitable now is because the price has gone down. So as a miner, you're all competing to solve a mathematical problem, right? And the miner that solves it, this is really brought down to a basic level, but the miner that solves it first gets the block reward, which is 12.5 Bitcoins, and then they get all the transaction fees that were sent, right? So every single block on the blockchain for Bitcoin is 1 megabyte of data, which is about 2,000 transactions. So every 10 minutes, 2,000 transactions are being verified and added to the chain. So yeah, back to your question, it is becoming much more difficult. There are a lot of big players moving into this space, investing tens of millions into mining operations, and it means that mining is becoming, no one can do it in their homes anymore. If you want to do it profitably, you have to do it on a big scale. Okay? Sure, one more question.
Hey, I'm Julian. I have a question. What do you say to the statement that once miners turn off their mining rigs, that the price in a bear market bottom out? Is that still true, or is it because of the big, large-scale operations not possible to state this anymore?
So I don't think that you know, the machines being turned off is going to stop the bottom. I think that the miners are integral to the to the network. So, you know, back to the other point, we hope that once the block reward gets smaller and smaller, the incentive that's paid out by the miners will be, by the people moving the transactions, will be enough to justify the miners running on. But I don't think the miners are causing a bear market at all. It's not related to that. I think the cause of the bear market that we're in now is all these ICO projects have raised billions and billions, promised so many things, and not delivered on anything. So people have lost hope and sold their coins. And I hope that over the next year or two, we're going to see real projects coming out with real value. Thank you. I think time's up.
Last sentence from you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Ibrahim. Please give him a hand.
Thanks, guys.
So, this was all about mining. Now we change the scene. Now we change to another person, a person who really have an interesting use case. Now, I'm a lawyer as a background, and as a lawyer, I always dreamt about